Hi, everybody.
Hello.
All right, they are here. Okay.
Hello.
Gosh, it was so quiet there. I was afraid. Technology has reached up and
You have us all muted.
uh, I guess I have more power than I thought I did. All right. I think everybody has made the move. Are we all in? Yeah. There's a few more.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome and congratulations on clearing the spring semester of history books, and I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about in the months and years to come as we continue to evolve to the next stages. I did want to share with you a few points from this week. First off, the Board of Trustees has adopted a budget. It's a budget that we went back into, and we took the governor's original funding request from the state and we have reduced it to the tune of about 5%, recognizing that the Commonwealth is in a pretty dire strait fiscally, given the extremely heavy unemployment rate, the shift of more people to mass health, and the other tax revenues that quite frankly are not materializing at this point in time. So we believe that even a 5% reduction in terms of next year's budget may be on the optimistic side, but we'll continue to monitor that. And we've talked to our budget managers, and there are contingency plans to go back in and make some additional reductions to the budget should that be necessary. The other piece is that in building the budget, we did let the enrollment projection continue with a 5% reduction in terms of the credit hours. Our standard operating procedure is that we use a 3-year rolling average, which would have put us down about, I think, 3.7%. Matt, if that's right, shake your head one way or another, but no, it's not right. It's 3.2. There we go. I got a thumbs up from Matt in case you didn't see that. So I'm getting some hints here from the screen. We actually ended up upping that to 5% and really using that as a hedge in terms of building the budget for next year. We do have a marketing campaign that is currently underway where we are reaching out. I'm going to share this with you. We're reaching out to families across the Cape with high school graduates, and we're just reminding them that we will be here in the fall. We will be offering online and hybrid courses and remote opportunities for learning. And as people are reevaluating where higher education is and where it is not in terms of what students expected, we think there's an avenue for increased enrollment in the fall. So the net effect is we are optimistic that we'll be able to increase enrollment as we get closer to the beginning of the fall semester. I would say that we don't expect to see a lot of activity over the summer because many people are hedging. They're waiting to see what the other schools, the other universities are doing. Frankly, I think some of the other schools are stringing people along with expectations that aren't necessarily going to be achievable. And we are finding out, if I can pull this up here, if I can find it. Hang on with me. Here we go. All right, let's see. I could almost walk and chew gum at the same time. This was in this afternoon's Boston Business Journal, and this was, it's not a scientific survey, but there were almost 600 responses. And it gives you an inkling that we tend to be on the pathway that people are expecting in terms of what's going to happen in the fall with the rise of the hybrid model for learning. So stay tuned, and we'll see how long this continues. On Monday, the governor will announce the reopening phases of the state. For our staff who will be joining us over the course of the summer as we get back to a restart, the expectation is on Tuesday, we're not all going to show back up for work. It's going to be a longer opening than that. On phase one will be talked about on Monday by the governor, but if you're envisioning where this process is, if you think in terms of 4 concentric circles, and we're at that pinpoint in the middle right now as we begin to reopen and as the state begins to clarify what the parameters are that they're going to use to determine whether we go to the next phase of the reopening, and then the timelines between phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, if things are going as expected or better than. Phase 2 is actually called the cautious phase. Phase 3 will be the vigilant phase, which is where the state is continuing to practice containment and stringent conditions and operating criteria are in place. Basically, phase 3 is what we're projecting we will be in when we begin the fall semester and when we're holding commencement on September 1st. Phase 4 is considered the new normal. And this is the phase we reach when there's a treatment available or there's a vaccine available. So the timeline to get to phase 4 in the governor's reopening plan will probably take a few more months or a year and a half, depending on what happens on the science side of the treatment of the virus. The point of all this is as we continue to move forward, we have our reopening spreadsheet that it's in draft mode. We're going to roll that out to share. That'll come out on Monday. It's meant to follow along with where we are with the state, but it goes into a deeper level depending on the departments and depending on whether you're faculty, staff, or students, or your other people on campus, such as the Academy for Lifelong Learning, when we have to worry about potentially some other issues that may be age or health related. So there are many moving parts as we move ahead. I can tell you that yesterday a few of us had the opportunity with Joe McKinnon and Don Crampton and Arlene Rodriguez. We were up at the hangars in Plymouth with a industrial hygienist firm to go over the lay of the land, if you will, in terms of how do we make this work, given the distancing, given the need for the personal protection equipment, and also the ability to monitor people as they're coming and going. So there's a comprehensive strategy that is beginning, that we're looking at applying not only to the aviation hangar, but to all of the facilities that we're using. I would say if your staff, as we get ready to ramp up for the summer, next week we will have some guidance in terms of the timeline, but the expectation is that we will likely have split or flexible shifts so that we keep people further apart and more distant. And I would just stay tuned for more details as we get into next week. We'll be taking the lead from what the governor's office is saying and where exactly higher education falls on that listing. Let me shift gears a little bit now, and somewhere we have Arlene. There's Arlene. Hi, Arlene. Arlene, how about a quick update on the strategic planning process and where we are? That's sort of hit a few Other issues have come up along the way that have slowed down the progress, but we need to reemphasize that we're continuing to engage with the Board of Higher Ed.
Will do. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all, and welcome. I am very excited to say that we have submitted a draft of our strategic plan to Winnie Hagan over at the DHE. She oversees strategic plans. And word back this morning from her is that it's got everything it needs to. That's her little quote. So we are continuing to work, as there was some information not there. We're getting ready for touch point 2, which is when a college submits an early draft to show methodology and what data has been collected and the framework for the plan. And then the strategic planning committee of the BHE reviews it, has a conversation with the college, and then returns it with comments. So right now we're finishing up touch point 2. The commissioner is reading it and going through it. He will pass it around to the other board members, and we should be getting a response in a couple of weeks. That gives us the summer to finalize the plan and go before the BHE for a vote in the fall. So thank you all who have participated. We have shared at college meeting and in other venues. What we're looking at is 2 primary goals, and everything is going to fold up and right into those 2 goals. And one is increase our 6-year completion rate. As some of you know, the DHE has a performance measure page of all the community colleges based on different metrics. And on that one in particular, we need a little help. So our goal is to move from where we are located right now to where 50% of our students over a 6-year period complete is graduate, transfer, all of that, and go from 53% to much higher, be actually number 1 in the state among the community colleges. So that's going to take some effort, but I think the way the plan is drafted, and I know some of you have seen early versions already, is that we all together will work to create goals, to emphasize some of the work we're doing, create new initiatives to move that along. And our second goal is to really continue to demonstrate our commitment, our stewardship to the community. And certainly now more than ever, that is critical as we go through this pandemic, but also as we go through the increasing unemployment rate. And we've tapped into a lot of new ideas and efforts that we will be doing both through the West Barnstable campus, but also through Hyannis and workforce education. So if you have any questions about the plan, I also wanted to say, as part of the plan, and this is required from BHE, we are creating an equity metrics to see how the different groups of students on our campus, and when I say campus, I mean all of them. I mean, our funeral service program at Bridgewater, our AMT program at Plymouth, and our West Barnstable campus, how our students, the different groups of our students progress and complete their work. And we have some pretty interesting data on that. We're still collecting that. Lori Crawley, you are a rock star. Thank you for keeping us in line with that. And I think you would agree, we've got some pretty interesting data that we'll be able to share more fully once the plan is approved. So if you have any questions, also a shout out to the entire strategic planning committee and my new co-chair, Don, who took over responsibilities when Maureen went to Northeastern. So this is a fantastic team, and I think we're putting together a really very good forward-looking plan. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Arlene. I wanted to spend a moment and just talk about the survey that FPC did. I got a copy of the results last night and had the opportunity to review them somewhat quickly. But I was, to a certain level, pleased that when we're looking through some of the feedback here, how would you describe your personal well-being this semester? We're looking at what, 62, almost 63% indicated that they were feeling okay or gave a somewhat neutral response or above, and above being expressed gratitude, well-being, or even an improvement over how they feel during normal times. So I thought that was Actually, I was very pleased to see that. It was much higher than I would have thought, but that's a good thing too. And as we're going through and identifying some of the challenges, obviously the Zoom and becoming more familiar with the Zoom and the amount of time people are spending on Zoom is an ongoing challenge. We identified the need to look for an avenue to include some Zoom training introductions for students, maybe as part of the orientation process at the college, so that students have a better idea of what's going on within the Zoom classroom. And then, you know, some of the open-ended comments I always sort of go to and read some and get the responses there for a better feeling on what's going on with some of the thinking. And just to read out a few real quick ones to help paint the picture, if you will. Someone mentioned that they dream about a crisis team that goes out in cars to people's houses, delivering laptops, hotspots, books, or grocery cards, whatever is needed. And we share sort of that similar belief there that we would like to do that. At this point, we don't have all those avenues lined up, but we do have the ability to get the hardware out and to make some of those assets available to people as they need it. And hopefully in time, when we get back to a little bit more normalcy, we'll be able to be a little more proactive. Another person writes, very uncertain employment for the summer. This is a terrible time to be a part-time employee, and the full-time opportunities are limited. I know that no one has the answers, but not being sure about employment is really hard on me, on my family, and my career aspirations. It makes me either super sad or more distant depending on the day and the weather. And you know, I can say I hear you loud and clear. You know, clearly as we continue to build out for the fall, the intent is to continue to build enrollment. There are parameters that we have set aside using the CARES funds that we received from the federal government this year to help pay the bills so that we can roll some of the fee revenue that we collect this year to next year to use in next year's budget to help shore up what we expect to be the shortfall from the state. That puts us in a more proactive state. The intent is, you know, ideally, we want to bring everybody back. I don't know where we're going to be for sure when the beginning of September rolls around, but the one commitment that I can leave you all with is that everybody is working very hard to ensure that we get as many students here as possible that engage while not forgetting what the mission of Cape Cod Community College is for the long haul. And then just some other, three other quick comments. I'm very concerned that we will be asked to return to campus to teach labs before our safety can be guaranteed. I'm also worried that most of our students do not thrive in an online environment. In other words, I want to be face-to-face for my students, but I do not want to risk my health. This may be a catch-22. Well, we're going to continue to do our best to adhere to the Centers for Disease Control guidelines in the Massachusetts Department of Public Health guidelines. We've already placed the order for the face mask for the fall semester to ensure that we have backups should people not have adequate coverage when they arrive here. We're working on the process that people will be able to self-identify if they have a problem, if there's a health-related issue, and we're working on training people, and especially when they're back the first time, in terms of what the expectations are, in terms of the distancing, and in terms of the needs to keep the face covered and to not touch the face. So, and remember, don't touch the face, because I'm sitting here watching some of you touch the face as I'm trying to carry on my conversation. So this is challenging here, but it's a serious thing. And we're gonna do our best on that part as well. Hopefully, as we move forward, the science behind this and the ability to test at a higher level and eventually get to the vaccine or the treatment will come along in a more timely manner, so that we can we can get back to where we were in February. So my takeaway on this comment is I hear you loud and clear here as well. We're going to do our best to ensure the health and safety of everyone, and that we have the adequate materials and the training in place to be where we need to be. Two other quick points here from the survey. Often success still happens even when you think it is elusive. I thought that was a great comment to end on, as was, I am happy the Cape Cod Community College took COVID-19 seriously early on. And in working with my colleagues at other colleges, I do believe that continues to be the case, that we are on the front end of a lot of the discussion and the response. And frankly, a part of that is driven by two things. One, we really wanted to give the students an idea what was happening before they left for spring semester. And we did do that. The other is we really want to give an idea to the faculty and staff who are expected to be here in the summer and fall of what's going to happen next, because it takes time to plan for and to do that pivot. While we used to say you can't pivot overnight, I think recently we proved that maybe you can pivot overnight. So we continue to be a work in progress, and some people are smiling on that comment. Other people are a little, oh, don't touch your face there, Carol, come on. All right. I get a little punchy after talking to a computer screen too long. So because of that, I'm gonna pivot to, where is Pat? There's Patrick. Patrick, let's talk about yard signs.
Gladly. Thank you, President Cox. So as you've heard President Cox talk about in several of these prior meetings, we've talked about the idea of getting yard signs for our graduates, similar to what some of the high schools have done. So I'm happy to report that today our yard signs came in. If you see Joe over here, Joe could be Vanna for us. He has one of the yard signs, if you could scroll and find him. So we're really happy the yard signs are in. We're even more excited to announce that we have a plan to distribute the signs. So next week we're going to be hosting 2 celebrations for pickup days. Sorry, it's no sooner than I start all my kids burst through the door. I promise there's only 2, but they make it sound like there's 20 of them. So next week we're going to have 2 pickup days. One is Wednesday, May 20th from 1 to 3 o'clock on campus at the bus stop, the flagpole entrance. And the next will be Friday, May 22nd from 12 to 2, from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. And we invite all of you to come and join us on the Ring Road for those 2 blocks of time and help us celebrate our graduates, socially distancing as safe as we can around the Ring Road. We're reaching out to our graduates today to let them know that we'll have the signs and invite them. And then, sorry. And then next week, again, we invite you to join us for those 2 sessions. So Wednesday, May 20th, which is our regularly scheduled commencement day from 1 to 3 p.m. And the next on Friday, May 22nd from 12 to 2.
Patrick, while you're on a roll, would you like to make some comments about the website?
Yes, I will. So you may have noticed we've had some work done on the front page of our website earlier this week to better support our work that we're doing in our recruitment campaigns. Actually, President Cox, if you give me 2 minutes of filler, I could better explain this.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, never mind. My daughter has given up the hope of watching Baby Shark.
Just like a cabinet meeting.
It's just like a cabinet. They only wait until I hit unmute. So yes, all right. So we on our front page of our website, as President Cox alluded to, our marketing campaigns and what we're doing specifically to target the new audience of high school graduates who are pivoting their plans for the fall. We've updated and revamped what we call the Get Started page, which is now prominently featured on the front page. It's what we historically point our prospective students to as a sort of a very simplified step-by-step enrollment process. To that page, we've added a link to our course search, which is also still linked from our front page of our website. And we are, President Cox alluded to our marketing campaigns that are going on. So when we do our digital advertising, which is a heavy component of what we're going to be doing for the summer and the fall, we're pointing people to that page. And as part of that work, we're also IT is working to revamp the course search itself, so that as we point people to it. It currently exists on Campus Web. We're working to streamline the course search process because Campus Web can be particularly confusing to students that are not familiar with how to use it. And while all that is happening, it's just worth noting again that we have a new website coming. I've talked about this for the better part of the year when I've had the opportunity to with everybody. My team has been working with IT very closely, with huge shout out to Chris Brizzi and Chris Pauck and Eric Sheffer and Rick and the whole IT team for helping support this. We're several weeks away from the launch of our new site, which is going to look very similar to what the front page looks like now, which underwent that facelift a couple of weeks ago to better meet compliance standards for ADA. So I ask everybody for their patience. I thank you for your patience as we've worked through this. It's extremely hard work to build a new website and launch a new website. And we learned over the past couple of months that's doubly hard when you're trying to do that during a pandemic. So we are still, it's coming very soon in the next several weeks. So again, we thank you for your patience. I look forward to your feedback, and your feedback helped get us to where we are now. So stay tuned, and it'll be going live shortly.
Thanks, Patrick. And with some of the background challenges Patrick has there brings to light one of the other discussions that's coming out through the governor's office about childcare and the role to move forward with that in terms of restarting the economy. And as we recognize, we have the Children's College on the campus. We're also recognizing that there are several that are teetering on the edge, several providers that are teetering on the edge that could really have a hard time with restarting given where we are today. So we're continuing to look at, is there more of a role that we can get some additional support through the state to play in the child care sector. So again, thank you, Patrick. Mia, do you have that slide on the DCAM project, the energy project, and Joe McGrail? I think you're still.
No, Joe McKinnon.
Joe McKinnon, yes, Joe McKinnon. I'm sure Joe McGrail's not going to answer. Hey, Joe, are you with us?
Sure am, yeah.
Okay, we're going to bring up the, there it is. Do you want to just give us a quick overview on the?
Okay, so this is the slide that talks about projects that are upcoming right now. So the Science Center, we are moving forward. The construction management firm is working on obtaining final bids for demolition and also permits that are required. There's several permits that have to be secured before we can begin the work. But we are looking at beginning abatement activities for any of the environmental issues that we have to worry about, asbestos and a few others. That'll start in a few weeks, actually into probably the first week of June, and then we'll actually start the heavier demolition a few weeks after that, potentially late June, early July. So the Science Center is still, the train is on the tracks, and this project is moving forward. The other thing that President Cox has directed the design team to do is to try to take advantage of the current commodity market and see if we are going to save any money on this project and be able to, have some alternates identified to do some more with the new building, including potentially a solar array on the roof that could make the building net carbon neutral, which is really exciting. We're also looking at a pretty substantial project to upgrade and replace aging infrastructure with the exterior lighting around the ring road and the parking lots. And we're looking at getting the project is going out to bid shortly for the LaRusso building envelope. There's some exterior stair repairs and some building leaks that we need to address. And then separately from these, we're excited to talk a little bit about an energy project that we started actually back in 2018 in partnership with the DCAM energy team. We invited them out to the campus. They walked the campus, and we're very excited about the opportunities we have to address some of our not very energy efficient systems that we have at the college. And in concert with that, we also have very aged infrastructure that needs to be replaced. So we're going to try to dovetail, deferred maintenance projects along with some energy projects. And the best part about it is most of this will be funded through energy savings, and it won't cost the college any money. And in these times, that's really important. So, so that project the study was completed last month. And now we're getting into the RFP process for actual real design, and that's when we'll vet the energy conservation measures that really make the most sense, and that we can hopefully spend about $6 million on energy projects for the college over the next couple of years. So we're really excited about that.
Very good. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Sure.
So with that, we would love to open it up to questions. If there are questions. Or smiling faces, you know. So as we go into the summer, we are going to continue to communicate with, and we may end up falling more back to the emails, because I know getting people together, especially if we start to reopen, may be a struggle. But the intent is that we'll be having a weekly update just to keep you current on what's going on, because I realize a lot of things change day to day, hour to hour, so you avoid some surprises.
This is Kathy Bent. I just have one question.
Yes, Kathy.
Okay. So has Maureen O'Shea's position been filled, the data position?
No, it has not.
Is that one frozen also?
No, I believe the search is underway on that.
Okay. Thank you.
That's going to be one we need to fill.
Right.
John, if you want the update on that, the short list of candidates has been identified by the search committee.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I have one other question I just thought of too. Sorry to keep piping up here. Students have been asking, so specifically questions about different programs. So for example, I know you're going up to figure out what's going on with the aviation, but will a directive be sent out to them as soon as decisions regarding specific programs are made?
Broadly, yes. We're looking at a few programs right now where there's more specialized arrangements that have to be made, you know, where the labs are, the AMT, EMT, and the intent, even with yesterday's visit and the going over the layout there, with where we are with the restart and the timeline that it appears that we'll be receiving through the governor's office, it's probably going to be mid-June to July at the earliest before we can go live with getting students back in there. So we don't want to raise this false expectation that, you know, students will be rolling in there next week and the governor is going to say we're all open. It's going to be there's a longer time horizon to this as it builds out, but as soon as we have a more clear indication of that timeline, we'll let people know.
Yeah, so the students who are most concerned are the students that are on the Mass Hire grants, which have specific timelines. So those are the ones, and so it's helpful for me to be able to say to them that when decisions are made, they will hear.
Right.
And I'm sure poor Sky Green is working her tail off, communicating with Boston about all those people too. So, all right, thank you.
Thanks. We can just sit here and stare at each other. I feel like everybody's staring at me.
Well, you do have the feature to raise your hand if there are any more questions, and I'm able to find you. Or you can unmute yourself and
The other piece I would offer up is, you know, feel free to write me or call, and if there's demand, I'll be more than happy to have Zoom hours where people can drop in. We did that last week, and we had a number of people pop in, so that works. It's another mechanism to answer questions.
President Cox, this is Sheila Vaughn. I just wanted to let you know that I have heard a lot from other colleges, and they are reaching out to us as to what we are doing. So I am very proud of the way that we are handling the situation, and I think we have been, you know, very great and upfront about the way that things are going here, and are very innovative, and people are very asking us what we're doing. So that's pretty exciting stuff. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Well, it's you know, this has been a team effort, and everybody has rolled up and really addressed the challenge in a phenomenal way. And I think that's why we are where we are as a leader across the state.
I think we should have a showing of children and pets before everything's all over.
Will?
I have a question.
Yep.
I have a question. Anne Flash, adjunct art, studio art. I'm just wondering, as an adjunct, I'm not that familiar with the relationships that advisors have with their advisees, but I haven't heard that talked about. Maybe I missed that, but I'm just curious what kind of contact exists between advisees and advisors right now, because my students seem to be very distant from their advisors, and it was part of what I think made them unclear about what they were going to do in the fall. Thank you.
Do you want to, Arlene, do you want to?
I can pipe up in one way that I've reached out. So I offered both a collective Zoom meeting that was an advising meeting general, and sent that out to all my students and told them that I would set it up for after final exams if they wanted it. And I had heard from 3 students out of about 20 that said yes, they would appreciate that. I reached out to other advisees who had been on academic warnings just to kind of close the loop via email, and asked them if they wanted one-to-one Zoom meetings. So I'm trying to use Zoom to put a face to a name and see if that helps get these students registered for fall, if that's what the best situation is for them. And to be honest, I've been recommending that if the second half of the semester didn't go well, that they reduce their course load but not stop, because I felt like I told them that everybody's getting better at it and it will go a lot more smoothly when you start the semester via Zoom or whatever. And hopefully they'll sign up for a manageable course load.
The Advising Center has been extremely busy working with students from all of the faculty, plus our own students, advisees. And, you know, I've seen over, not seen, although some on Zoom, 300 students that I've contacted with. And we're working closely with Sheila with the administration building, the admissions office, and everybody's been so helpful. I can't thank them enough, because it's really, I'm working more now than I did when I was in the office.
So I do have a question about some of the students we're trying to capture who would be coming to 4Cs instead of going right off to their four-year schools. And are they going to have to follow all the exact same processes in order to take one semester of course load at 4Cs? Or since their intention is not to earn a degree or a certificate, but just take courses for transfer, as long as they meet the prerequisites, are they able to just register?
So Kathy, I can answer that question, Kathy. Thanks to the work of Donna Alexander, we now have a really solid online registration form for those students. And so students can choose to matriculate if they're looking to use financial aid and apply for financial aid, or they can complete the course registration form. And so earlier this week, Donna Alexander and several members from IT and enrollment worked on streamlining this process. So that is looking to go live as soon as possible, but it really makes it a lot easier for a transient or a visiting student to come in and register for classes. So we've done our best to speed that up, and in fact, it'll be a game changer moving forward as we head into the fall to make it a lot easier for students to register. Those that are non-matriculated, the matriculated students will still go through My 4Cs and do it that way, but we've certainly sped the process up.
Okay, so can you include faculty on that? Because many times when you're out and about, that's when the parents will contact us and ask. So that would be really helpful. I've been answering Barnstable questions come my way because they know me as a Barnstable parent and they know me as a college person. So that's good to know. Thanks.
Kathy, just be sure with students, if you like, and they can always talk to me, especially because I'm the Barnstable person. Just because of financial aid purposes, a lot of students have to know that they have to matriculate to use financial aid. So that's an important thing to understand. So students want to use financial aid, they have got to matriculate. So have them reach out to me in my office. We're happy to talk to them through about if they want to be a transient student and just take classes, or and not use financial aid or not. So.
Right, so I was aware, thank you for the reminder. I do know that from all the years, and I have been communicating that. So that's what I tell them, is that if they are eligible or think they may be, that they need to make sure. And most of them have their FAFSAs done, so they know whether or not they're eligible right off the bat. So that was good.
We have almost 200 students from Barnstable already in our database and ready to be advised. So we got a good relationship going with these guys right now. So that's awesome to hear. So bring them on, as many as possible. Bring them on.
I think another target group to go after, once with my own children having been through college and currently in college, anybody at the freshman or sophomore level, when I run into those parents, I encourage them, if you're taking remote anyway and they can't be in the dorms, you may as well take from 4Cs and transfer rather than pay the higher tuition. And I give them all the benefits, and so hopefully we'll get some of those sophomore level students too, which would be very nice. Juniors and seniors, that's a whole different ballgame.
Right. Right. Good.
I think it's also useful to point out that from a financial aid perspective, prior to the pandemic and the soaring unemployment, students who thought they might not be eligible for financial aid, currently may be eligible. So it's wise to invite them to rethink that process as well.
And the state has extended their financial aid deadline to July 1st. All right, well, seeing no additional questions, hands, or Tom?
I can't raise my hand because I don't have that option.
Oh,
But you've
I
made
saw
my
your
co-host.
hand.
Well, this is my real hand, I guess, right?
That's what
I'd like to, if I could, maybe, again, this is bringing something up, it's asking a question, it's a whole bunch of different things, but there's, I think, a need for us to consider, and we were having part of this conversation before with our TLC meeting, the need for us to consider having, whether it's some type of a syllabus addendum, whether it's referencing our students to the code of conduct, but proper ways for students and faculty alike to conduct ourselves through Zoom, not just in terms of how we present ourselves, but what is necessary for conduct for everything from students who are laying in their beds trying to take class, which is not conducive to learning, let's just say, all to how it is that we do communicate through Zoom. I don't know if this is something that either is a union issue that we would have to discuss, if this is something that we can just sort of make recommendation to. We were discussing the need for, is it applicable for us to require students to have themselves on camera during classes? I mean, I know that the last 7 or 8 weeks we've been on triage mode, and we've given all kinds of different flexibility to students as to what we have and have not allowed. But for the fall particularly, are we allowed to sort of tell them you need to have your camera on? Because that also does bring up the technological equity issue that we've talked about in the strategic planning steering committee meetings. So I do know that a few other colleges have already put out types of statements about this. They have referenced students to the code of conduct that exists remotely as well, like this is still a classroom environment. But I was just sort of interested in putting that idea out there. Again, asking if people have input. This is maybe not the place for us to have the conversation, but this is just something for us to think about for fall.
Okay. Can you send us the samples that you found at the other colleges?
Sure. I found some high school samples, but particular some college samples from Kansas State, Cal Berkeley, University of Minnesota. So I can send those along, and we can maybe kind of parse some of those and see how it matches up with our union, with our academic freedom capabilities, how we feel it's going to work for students, things like that. Sure.
Very good. Thank you.
John, if I can just add a little bit to that. So most of the community colleges have some sort of IT acceptable use policies that would likely
Cover that.
already reference Zoom, not specifically, but the modality. So we probably should just take a look at what policies we currently have in the other 14 community colleges and just see if those could be tweaked.
Gosh,
Since
okay.
they've already been kind of bargained and approved.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
thank you, Sabine. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Can I share an idea?
Yes.
So back to the signs that we're giving to the students. So my husband works at Barnstable, and Barnstables did a fundraiser where they were selling those signs where it says proud educator of a 2020 BHS graduate. And they're doing it to put money in a pool to help students. So just thinking that maybe something like that would be good for either the foundation or the college to do, where the faculty and staff would purchase them as a fundraiser for students.
It's a good idea. Patrick Stone, are you on there?
Are you going to send the time out again for the sign pickup?
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
there'll be a message coming from Vice President Rodriguez's office to faculty and staff.
Okay.
Yes, Kathy.
Yeah, and the student message is going out right after this meeting.
Okay, good.
very good. All right, well, not hearing any other questions, comments, concerns, or other. All right.
Now, as we depart, I am going to unmute everybody and we can just have a little applause and celebration as we part ways for the summer. So I did it on accident the first time, but this is
Well, we'll be
intentional.
here. Some of us will be here this summer.
Here we go.
Just.
Hey.
Great.
Your
Great
daughter
job,
is adorable.
everyone.
Hey.
Good job, everyone.
More fun when it happens.
Ah, baby.
You see mine? Come here. Show you. Come here. Here's my baby.
Mia, it's much more fun when it happens by accident.
I know.
Great job, everyone, really.
Really, yeah.
Take care.
This was an amazing semester. Thank you so. Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
Yeah, be well. You too, all of you. Ah, another baby, Laura. Martin's there. He's beautiful. Hey, Martin. Hey, Martin.
Go ahead, sir.
Be safe, everyone.
No more juice yet. No more juice.
No more juice. That sounds familiar.
It's a tough crowd out there. What?
If you're all excited about taking that power washer with you, you better
Awesome.
Listen, he's listening to you. He wants to see what you're doing.
Hey, Tom, you want to work on doing something for some sort of Zoom etiquette thing?
Yeah, I had the original
Embedding it in the
phase.
IT policy too. Sorry?
I had the original phase, that came out around spring break.
Right.
I think we could probably revise it, send it out. Most of what I've seen and read is it's like, here's our code of conduct and it's strict and it applies. And then here's a suggested syllabus addendum. That's usually how most other places have been doing it. So I see Dean Ziemba there. And I don't want to send too many people his way.